Showing respect is such a huge topic in Japan that it has its own name, keigo. This concept comprises 3 ways to express yourself properly if you want to be able to connect with Japanese people: polite language, respectful language, and humble language. Scary, maybe at first, but if you stick around until the end of this video, I'm sure you will understand how to connect with Japanese people correctly. Hi, this is Sarah from Mosalingua. 皆さん、こんにちは。Mosalinguaの Sara です。So, there are 3 different types of keigo that vary depending on who you are talking to. Let me briefly introduce them to you. They are Teineigo, polite language, Sonkeigo, respectful language, and Kinjougo, humble language. But don't worry, Japanese students are not supposed to master keigo as a whole. You just need the Teineigo, which I will introduce here. In short, you will need to know 2 levels of language: the polite, Teineigo, and the casual form. But in which situation do you use the polite one? And when do you use the casual? Casual form is used with people with whom you have an intimate relationship, such as friends, family, or someone younger than you. For everyone else, that is to say for someone older, a stranger, or a person in a higher position, you will use the Teineigo. It is highly recommended to learn polite forms when you start learning Japanese. Why? Because in Japan, social interactions are so different from what you are used to. And I mean, really, it's always best for new speakers to be on the side of politeness rather than informality. Besides, you'll be doing yourself a favor by learning only one form, trust me. And as we say at Mosalingua, keep it simple. Teineigo is a polite language and the simplest form of keigo. You'll use it when it's necessary to put some distance between yourself and your interlocutor. Teineigo can be applied in different ways in a sentence. If you already know some basic Japanese, you know that you'll get the polite form by attaching the suffix masu to the verb. Let's see how Teineigo applies to the verb level. Iku, which means to go, and it's the neutral form, turns into ikimasu. Taberu, tabemasu, to eat. Aruku, arukimasu, to walk. Oh, and this is it for the conjugation and nothing else. Yay! Japanese conjugation is actually incredibly easy, but that's a topic for another video. Also part of the basic that you learn when you're a beginner, the use of the suffix desu usually comes after nouns, adverb, and adjectives, and also usually found at the end of the sentence. Example: Sara desu. I am Sarah. Nihongo no sensei desu. I am a Japanese teacher. Furansujin desu. I am French. You see, I told you it wouldn't be so hard to sound polite in Japanese. Just one word, nothing else. The honorific prefixes o and go are added in front of certain words when we want to show respect to people we are talking to or about. You don't need to worry about whether or not you should add these honorific prefixes. Instead, learn the word as it is, so you'll recognize it even if the prefix is omitted. For example, ocha vs cha, which means tea, or osara vs sara, which means plate. The prefix go is used for Japanese words that are derived from Chinese readings and origin. Example: annai vs goannai, which means to guide or to guide, and shujin vs goshujin, which means husband. Now, let's quickly review some behaviors that are considered as polite in Japan and that are expected for anyone going to Japan. By the way, even if you don't go to Japan, if you want to meet some Japanese people, it will be very useful for you to know some basics of Japanese manners. To greet someone in Japan, we do what we call a nojigi. This is a gesture that looks like a curtsy, which consists in bowing your trunk more or less low. We won't go into the detail of degree of bowing. Just remember that it's something like that. It's not necessary to bend very low. A very low ojiki can occur in very specific situations, when you need to apologize for a big mistake or in business. And be careful, don't join your hands while doing the ojiki. This gesture is used during prayers in temple, but never to greet someone. In Japan, it's mandatory to take off your shoes when you enter in a house. Moreover, houses have a genkan, which is equivalent to our entrances with a rise that indicates where you should leave your shoes. When you are a visitor, it's normal that your host offers you some slippers, surippa, to circulate into the house. These slippers are to be kept on except on the tatami mats, which must be walked on only barefoot or in socks, and in the toilets, which have specific slippers. Volume levels differ from one country to another. I would say that Japan is the lowest level when it comes to the volume of people talking in a public space. It's quite striking in the subway in Japan, where silence rules. And I must say, it quickly becomes pleasant. So if you tend to have a big voice and you recognize yourself as loud, it's better to lower the tone a little in Japan. You probably know the words iie in Japanese, which means no, but in Japan you don't use it frequently as you might imagine. Japanese people are kind of reluctant to say iie all the time. So in order to preserve the group harmony, Japanese people will always prefer more indirect ways of saying no, rather than a direct and plain no. Do you remember the expression chotto, which literally means a little? So it's very common to start with chotto to say no. For example, if you invite someone for a coffee on a Thursday and he cannot, he will most likely reply, 木曜日はちょっと, which means literally, on Thursday it's a little bit, and that means I can't. Or, 木曜日はちょっと予定が入っているので, which means, on Thursday I have plans, so it's a bit, and that's a little bit more specific and means I can't. Learning how to say no in Japanese is quite an art. And as a matter of fact, part of the art is not to put the other person in a situation when he is forced to say no. For instance, instead of asking, do you want to have a coffee with me? You can say, if you're not too busy, do you? So the person has a way out if he cannot go with you. This concept says a lot about politeness in Japan. Learning a language goes hand in hand with understanding a new cultural approach. And I hope to have succeeded in providing you a few hints about Japanese culture here. Thank you for watching and see you soon. 見てくれてありがとう。またね。
If you learned something new from this video, give it a thumbs up. Then, hit subscribe and turn on your notifications. Have a look around our channel for more hacks and tips. And if you're watching on another social media platform, like or follow our page. See you next time.